Okay. Call to order. The agenda for this meeting would be one item for the Celebration Community Services meeting, which would be to discuss the selection of an auditor to do the external financial audit. And my preference would be...
Do you have a quorum? Do you have to call a quorum and everything?
You have a quorum.
Okay. My preference would be only one topic and not to deal with anything else. I would like for us to have a CCS board meeting on April 24th before the CROA meeting so that the public can be forward, deal with everything. Because at that point in time, between now and the 24th, let's get the past minutes done. Let's, you know, we should have the legal opinion. We'll have all the other stuff so we can deal with everything that was on the table at that one point in time. So with that, if that's all right. So is it all right? I need a motion for the agenda and a second as I proposed it.
I'll make a motion for that.
Second.
One item agenda.
For one item agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. So we're good to go. So I'll repeat it for the audience. I said it in the last meeting, but for Celebration Community Services, we sent out an audit request to 4 firms. One firm refused to quote. It was Ellen Fontana's firm. She just didn't want to do it. Didn't have time, she said, and stuff like that. Another firm did not respond, followed up there. It was one that was suggested to me by somebody in the room. Then we had Eric Fontana's firm, which is based also out of Tampa, but it had a small office here in Celebration. They have given us a quote of $90,900 with expenses up to $250,000, so slightly in excess of $10,000. Cole & Company, Vaughn and I actually met with them when we were going through CROA's regular audit type stuff. They've given us a proposal for $4,400, and it did not have additional expenses in it. So the difference is, let's just say $4,400 and $10,000. So there's a difference of about $4,600. I'm sorry, $5,600. I believe that most of that difference is attributable to the fact that Cole & Company has been our auditor for a long time, knows the control environment, knows Arizona, has been to Arizona, and all that type of stuff, whereas the other auditor, for professional standards purposes, has to build all that information to do a proper professional audit on a GAAP basis. I had sent the 2 proposals to the board last week with a lot of this as background. We need to make a decision about who the auditor is going to be, because whoever you pick, they all need at least 3 or 4 weeks to start getting it on the calendar and stuff like that. So if we've requested a tax attorney legal opinion, which I'm hoping to see this week or next week, and would forward to the full board. And then if we've got, that would speak to the legality of how we're using CCS and the use of those funds. Then we start the audit, and in a perfect world, the audit, once it starts, will take 3 to 4 weeks because they have to do bank record confirmations and stuff like that, which banks respond at a certain speed and stuff like that, and that's just life. So if we started the audit in late April or early May, it would be done hopefully May 31st, early June. We'd have CCS dealt with by the end of June. So that's kind of the goal that we had all set for ourselves. So with that as background, I will we're on tape here, I know you've sent emails, but take comments from the board about the audit so that we can move forward with that conversation.
Can we do a motion and a second for discussion then? Do we need to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can do that. Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept Coleman Associates as the conductor audit, CCS audit. That price, what was it, $4,400, approximately $4,400.
I'll second that. Just a question, just to clarify for the record, both have experience with 501c4s?
Both have experience with 501c4s, both have experience in the nonprofit arena.
Okay.
We spoke to them both. I mean, it's within the gist, and there's really, Susan has pulled together the information on the grants and everything there. This is a pretty straightforward, simple audit. There's just for the balance sheet ending 12/31/13 and then 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. There's a few transactions each year, so it's a pretty straightforward audit.
Okay.
And
this would be paid for from CCS funds?
This would be paid for from CCS funds.
And just for full disclosure, I am recusing myself with regarding the discussion about this audit, or regarding the audit specifically, because I was CCS president at the time, and they're auditing that particular term, so I'm recusing myself from this
But your
discussion.
recusal is not, I want to clarify, your recusal is not on all items related to CCS or all items related to your tenure as the board president, is that correct?
Correct, it is regarding the audit issue specifically. Is that,
I just want to say that as long as that recusal is limited to only that one issue, I appreciate it. But I want to make the point that I don't think you should recuse yourself from items related to CCS or any items related to your time as a prior board member. I think your voice is important to be heard here.
thank you.
Well, she is the vice president.
So,
She is an officer in the CCS.
Mhm.
so with that, if I may just extrapolate on that, with that logic, I was president of CCS for 9 months of my tenure, not knowing that I was president of CCS until January. So, so that year of 2018 is under my
I think the only difference is that there was one business meeting that took place, and that was under Vanessa's
It was under my term.
presidency. There were
It
no
was during your
meetings
term?
that took place in
Okay.
2000.
Yep,
Yeah,
I was the one that signed
I'm
off
not
on
in love
it.
with the precedent of people recusing themselves, and that's for the very reason you just described. And so I just want to be really crystal clear for the record that this recusal is very limited here, because I think that there's an important purpose to be served in having you continue to participate.
Thank you.
One of our goals, which Mary Ann and Kevin had spoke to in our organizational meeting, is we may very well be able to use CCS for other grants and stuff going forward. There's a we're starting to believe there's a very valid, real purpose for CCS, which we have not explored, which would be very beneficial to the Crow community. So the goal here is clean up the issues from the past so that we got clarity. I do think we should have an annual audit every year. I think that was a mistake. It should have a budget. All the stuff that wasn't done correctly, we should fix. It's not hard to fix. We should do it. We just need to get this behind us. That's.
Let me just ask, would a 501c4 have an annual audit? Is that typical to do?
When you look at the size of an organization, sometimes you can make wiggle room, but at the end of the day, if you're taking grant money and stuff like that, it is best practice. And for an organization the size of CROA and everything, to not do this, I think, is a mistake. And it provides more board protection. I mean, it's part of proper management. And I think once you get past this year, it's gonna be a pretty cheap audit.
So, just to clarify again, this audit that we're talking about is not a forensic audit. It is not designed to find wrongdoing or criminal activity or illegality or any of the other things that have been suggested by various people in the community over the past 3 months. Is that correct?
In my opinion, okay, so let me answer that a couple different ways. When I think about the legality issue around the 501c4, that's why we got the tax attorney looking at it. When an auditor does an audit, the CROA audit or any other audit, the auditor will do confirmations and other type of stuff in which they could discover things. If they discover things, they have an immediate obligation to notify the entire board. Could an auditor find something that raises to the level of criminality? They could. Is it likely? No. So I want to, we're not doing a forensic audit, we're really doing a financial audit. There's not a lot of transactions, so it's a pretty easy audit. If the auditor discovers something and it's criminal, they're gonna tell us, and we as a board would immediately have to meet on it and deal with it. So an audit is still an external audit that matters, and they're not going to ignore such an issue, if that's a fair way to answer your question.
Okay. I just want to make sure that the scope of the audit is identified as being external and not forensic.
That is a correct statement. It is an external audit to give and it's even consistent with what I think when we get the final board minutes we'll say. We said we would do a financial audit on a GAAP basis, which is actually, if you read Larson's stuff that we were all given, you have to have GAAP audits as a requirement of Florida statutes and that. And we're doing that so that we will have a solid balance sheet, income statement, history. In the historical perspective, we discussed it with both parties. I did, that we will talk about the original funding of $500,000 and how it was used, and we'll have invoices to support that even, so that we, to the point of when we get the audited financials, we present them to the public, they'll be able to say there was an initial $500,000, this is how it was predominantly used. And, you know, this is how the thing is now being used going forward, and here are audited financials on a fairly stated basis under GAAP principles.
That coupled with the attorney's letter should, I think, pretty much put us on the right track.
Right. I think that, then we can say this is how you legally use it. The attorney has not told me this in writing, but I mean, you know, you have to use the funds that are in CCS for public purposes, which, you know, the 4th of July, for example, is a public purpose. As an example, he said you can't take the CCS funds and use them for political advertising or something and stuff like that. So that, you know, you got quite a bit of leeway. I think we're well within our leeway with what we're doing here. Plus, obviously, you can use it for the expenses of maintaining the organization, which is what an audit and legal opinions and stuff like that would do.
Was that 4,400, do we have to be very specific on that amount? I just brought that up because that's what you were saying.
I think we should say, you said in your motion an amount approximating $4,400, which they said $4,400, you know.
Up to 5,000, should we just?
Up to 5,000 is fine.
I'll just amend my motion then to make it up to 5,000.
And I'll second. Yeah.
I was the second, so.
Oh, you were the second?
I have David as the second.
Oh, it's all right. Whoever.
Somebody second. Okay, other conversation? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Oh, that was yours.
Okay, Jackson made the motion and David seconded it. All in favor?
Rapidly, too.
Thank you very much. See you on Friday.